It is great to be back here at our home here in 30 Rock. We are not even 3 weeks into the formal impeachment inquiry. We're already in the star witness phase of things. Today, in defiance of Donald Trump, in defiance of the State Department, in defiance of Mike Pompeo, this woman just wrapped up over 9 hours of testifying before the House Investigating Committee. Yes, that's a long time. Her name is Marie Yovanovitch. Now, she is a career diplomat. She's got multiple foreign postings. She has language fluency. And she's also the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. She is the one, and you may have sort of seen this when that call first came out, right? She is the one that the president kind of threatened infamously in the call with the Ukrainian president. Remember that part? It is very weird. It's kind of gross, frankly. Donald Trump, he's talking about how bad his own ambassador is to the president of Ukraine. And he says, she's going to go through some things. Okay? Now, she already lost her job earlier this year. She was recalled as a U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. Basically, it appears because she kind of stood in the way of this corrupt shadow foreign policy that the president and his bagman, Rudy Giuliani, had cooked up. So she was an obstacle to their scheme to coerce a foreign government into manufacturing dirt on the president's political rival. And so they had to get her out of the way. And so she was sent back to Washington, D.C. very abruptly. In fact, I think you can tell the whole story of this scandal and indeed the whole Trump era as kind of story of two archetypes. All right? The bagman, Rudy Giuliani, and the civil servant, Marie Yovanovitch. Right? So the civil servant, Marie Yovanovitch, she shows up today to talk to the House Investigating Committee. She is still, let's be clear, she is still an employee of the State Department. Okay? Her livelihood, her paychecks every other week, they come from the State Department. At the last minute, the State Department said, you cannot show up. But she showed up and basically said, here I am, fire me. Okay? And Marie Yovanovitch, the civil servant, put her career as a diplomat, as a foreign service officer on the line. She put her livelihood at stake today. And she did it because she wanted to come and deliver a message to the committees about the way that Donald Trump is corrupting the American government. She told the committee today there was a campaign of disinformation that was waged against her and that campaign worked. She was abruptly recalled, told to come back to Washington, quote, on the next plane. She was told by her boss, the number 2 at State Department, she had done nothing wrong, that this was not like other situations. That's a quote, which is surely the case. She even said that Rudy Giuliani's buddies, okay, the guys that were just arrested, remember them? They probably saw her as an obstacle and wanted her pushed out because they wanted to make money in Ukraine. And of course, she was standing in the way. She was referencing these two guys that were arrested yesterday trying to flee the country hours after having lunch with Rudy Giuliani at the Trump Hotel. A weird set of events. Marie Yovanovitch had an entire campaign waged against her because she stood in the way, she says, of this corrupt abuse of power that's fully coming into light. And she is a civil servant who, I think, based on her testimony today, based on people that have worked with her, views her role as serving the American people and not Donald Trump himself. Someone that I know, a source who works with her in an official capacity, said this to me. Never, ever said a cruel word or a wrong thing, just the perfect example of a public servant. So in this story, she stands in, I think, for a kind of person in our government and in our political community that is the enemy of Trumpism. It's the kind of person that Trumpism must destroy in order to triumph. She's a public servant who views her duty as doing her best for the country she serves, which is true, I gotta say, of the overwhelming number of people in the civil service of this nation, from the FBI, the USDA, the Energy Department. If you've interviewed them like I have as a journalist, if you have people in your family, they are really, on the whole, I mean, some of them are good and some of them are bad and some are all in between, but they're on the whole, they are people who are trying to represent the interests of the United States of America, not the man who happens to be occupying the White House, which is a distinction. And the thing is, Trumpism cannot see that distinction, right? Trumpism cannot deal with those kinds of people because Trumpism is all about subverting the country and the public's interest, the public trust, all of us, to the whims of the man, Donald Trump. Trumpism cannot be implemented by civil servants. Doesn't work. Trumpism can only be implemented by lackeys and by bagmen. Bagmen like Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani, who, by the way, does not work for the U.S. government. He does not draw a government salary. He has no official role in American foreign policy. He answers to one person. That is Donald Trump. Donald Trump has anointed him personally to do his bidding. He is Michael Cohen 2.0. Before he had Rudy Giuliani, it's really true. Before he had Rudy Giuliani, Trump had Michael Cohen, and Michael Cohen was the president's fixer and his bag man. He took care of hush money payments, and he took care of real estate deals, and he took care of keeping things out of the newspaper. And now, well, Michael Cohen is in prison, so he can't use Michael Cohen anymore. So he's got Rudy Giuliani, right? Rudy Giuliani, he's not really his attorney in any real sense. He's not writing legal briefs that are going before courts. The president has real lawyers to do that, believe me. He's in court a lot. The lawyers take care of that. Rudy Giuliani is just a fixer with a law degree. And he has apparently been tasked with a pretty clear mission by the president, which is to manufacture dirt on my political enemies so that I can get reelected. Instead of running a foreign policy for the people of the country that represents our collective interests, Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani are running and have been running a shadow foreign policy that has nothing to do with the interests of the United States. I mean, that is basically what Donald Trump told the president of Ukraine, right there, right? Clear as day in the White House call notes that they released. After he said, I would like you to do us a favor, though, right? The key part of that phone call, the ask. He goes on to tell the Ukrainian president that he has to talk to Rudy, basically saying, Rudy's great, highly respected guy, great guy, mayor, he's my guy, give him a call. Talk to Rudy. Talk to Rudy. Donald Trump brought up Rudy on that call multiple times because Giuliani was his guy running his scheme. And that scheme started well before the call. We know that now. If you go back and you look through the months before the call, the shadow foreign policy is all right there in front of us. Rudy Giuliani is running point to pull off the scheme, and he's got to get rid of the person in his way, who is the civil servant Marie Yovanovitch. Because she takes her job seriously as the ambassador to Ukraine. She is not there to implement some corrupt scheme. So then Rudy and his associates, what do they have to do? They got to get rid of her. So they start this crazy pressure campaign against her, right? They enlist their allies to talk about how bad Marie Yovanovitch is. For instance, here's the president's son, okay, who, color me crazy, is not, I think, super into the details of which foreign service members are posted to which locales generally. And suddenly Don Jr. has a strong opinion about who the Ukrainian ambassador is and calling for her removal. Where does that come from? Rudy Giuliani is whispering in everyone's ears about how they need that dirt on the president's political enemies. And in order to get that, they got to get rid of this obstacle of Marie Yovanovitch. She has to go. And he's tweeting about how Ukraine has to open an investigation of the Bidens. And then he puts together this crazy propaganda folder of conspiracy theories attacking Marie Yovanovitch, attacking this civil servant and the Bidens. And he sends it over to the State Department in this weird envelope with some calligraphy. He did this. He admitted to it. That makes it sort of seem like it came from the White House. As the return address, just the White House. And the intent clearly is to give them the message that this is coming from the president. It is coming from the president because it's coming from the president's bagman. Circulate this around. Know who this person is. Rudy's job was to run this entire corrupt policy for Donald Trump, coerce a foreign nation, an occupied foreign nation, into manufacturing dirt in his political opponent. That was his mission. That was his goal. But here's the thing. That is not an American goal, right? It is directly counter to American interests. The public national interest, our interest, collectively, as citizens, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, all of us together, right? Our interest is for American elections to be decided by Americans. Not by some Ukrainian prosecutor. Donald Trump's interest, his particular interest, is for foreign countries to interfere on his behalf like they did in 2016. That's in his interest. And so that is what Rudy Giuliani did. And now, as the sheer scope of this thing keeps getting bigger and bigger, they are all desperate to cover it up. But the problem here is that there are more Marie Yovanovitches out there. Believe me. There are dozens of people in the government who really do view their duty to be the country and not to Donald Trump. And it is just a matter of time for them to come forward, like the first whistleblower did, and now the second. There is only one bagman, and gosh, I don't know what his future holds. But there are many civil servants like Marie Yovanovitch who are not afraid to stand up and to tell the truth.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.